No one expected this. We're going to be talking about Lonzo Ball's recent performance and how it is going to impact the Chicago Bulls as they go ahead and shape out this roster. We're also going to be talking about some of the key players to watch out for in tonight's preseason finale against the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you have found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are going into the final preseason game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think that the main storyline going into this game is just like the storyline from last game. And that is going to be with Lonzo Ball, because Lonzo Ball was absolutely stellar in this last game after being out for 2.5 years. We were wondering what type of player we were going to see. He had been saying in his podcast that he was ready to go, and he looked spectacular. He came out, he hit his first 2 3-point shots. He scored 10 points. He was +6 in the box score. He also had a nice block, and defensively, it doesn't look like he's missed a beat. And he said that that was one of the things he was going to struggle with from an athleticism standpoint. And it just doesn't look like he missed any time. And so now we are curious to see going into this next game that he said that he wanted to play. It's not a back-to-back, but how is he going to respond now? Because I think that if Lonzo Ball comes out and he responds well, I think that this can definitely change the course of the Chicago Bulls and the direction that they are headed to this season. Because suddenly I think that Lonzo Ball becomes a very attractive trade asset, for any team that is looking to pick up a guard that can be impactful right now. And I'm not saying that Lonzo Ball is going to be back to playing starter minutes at the 30 minutes a game, but I think that he absolutely can be a player that can play anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes a game, maybe a little over 20 minutes if he responds well today and he's able to be impactful to the team. And so I'm not saying that it has to be anything, necessarily amazing. And we're going to talk about that here in a moment, because I've compared him to Sean Livingston, and I think that he is going to be much better off than Sean Livingston, especially if he responds well today and continues to show this throughout the season. I think that even if he's not playing back-to-backs, I think that he could be a huge asset for a team that is trying to win right now. And so when we look at Sean Livingston and we look at that situation, I think that when you see Sean Livingston's numbers, you see that this is what he was able to do with Golden State in his last 5 years. And it's not like he's putting up, huge numbers, which is something that Lonzo Ball doesn't need to do. But, just putting up 10 points and being able to fill out the box score the way he did, I would have to imagine he looks like a player that can at least go out there and give you 10 to 6 assists right now. And I think that that's just, starting off on the low end. I think that there's going to be nights where it's going to be obviously much more than that. And in comparison to a Sean Livingston was 29 years old by the time he got to Golden State. Lonzo is just 26 years old. And so he has a lot left in the tank, especially if he's able to respond well. And I would just have to think that, if he does play well, the Chicago Bulls now can actually have a trade asset. They have a player that somebody is going to want, and it could be a situation where it's perfect, because now the Chicago Bulls can get some type of draft capital back, not necessarily looking for a player at this point in time, but I think some draft capital to go ahead and continue to build this team out. It also helps the Chicago Bulls in moving in a better direction now, because, the reports are out there, and I think that it is clear that the Chicago Bulls have, in fact, moved on from Lonzo Ball. And, when you bring in a player like Josh Giddey, who I know that they are going to extend no matter what happens this season, they essentially are bringing him in to replace Lonzo Ball. And then you have Ayo Dosunmu, who is coming off the bench, who I think that they are going to want to play some more. And then they're going to want to go ahead and utilize Kobe White a little bit more as well. So I think that those are the players players that they're going to move forward with. And so if you're able to get some draft capital back, go out there, maybe help your front court down the line, or maybe get a front court player in the meantime to go along with some draft capital. I think that you absolutely do that if you're the Chicago Bulls. And I think that Lonzo Ball is going to be willing to move on, because this season is not about Lonzo Ball and just the Chicago Bulls, because, you know, he's looking a little bit further past the situation. Sure, he is going to give these young players a lot. He is going to help a lot of these players look great when he comes in. The flow is going to be there. He is a selfless basketball player, and I think that his presence is going to be felt. But make no mistake about it, I've said this before, it's not about Lonzo Ball coming in and impacting winning necessarily for the Chicago Bulls. It's more so about him continuing his career, and I think that that is going to happen every practice, every game you see him in, especially if he plays well. Then I think that that noise is definitely going to get louder for somebody that is going to want to come in and trade for Lonzo Ball. So I am extremely excited for him tonight. I'm really hoping that he has an even better game, and I'm really excited for what the outlook is going to be for Lonzo Ball in his career. I think that this is tremendous, and I'm glad to see that he is with the Chicago Bulls as he continues this historic comeback. And so as we move forward, let's look at some of the players that we want to definitely watch for in this final preseason game. And I think it has to start with, Talen Horton-Tucker. I think that, THT has definitely made this roster. And I think when you look at THT, you look at his defensive rating, I think it's 113.7. That is pretty solid. And I think he's going to help us in a lot of different ways. I think that he can defend multiple people, which is something we're going to need. But more importantly, he has shown that he can be just a bucket getter, all right? And we are absolutely going to need that. And here's a player that is not afraid of contact and will go into the paint. Honestly speaking, he has the big man's mentality, but he plays at the guard/forward position. And I love that about THT. And so I think the Chicago Bulls need this. And I've said this before, much like Alex Caruso, I think he brings that championship experience. And this is something that we need during the season. I'm not sure how he's going to work into the rotation, but I can imagine that he is going to be a factor if he's on that bench. I think that Billy Donovan is going to want to throw him out there and utilize him maybe more nights than others, depending on who we're playing. But I think that THT is going to be a factor for this team, and a good bargain at this point for what the Chicago Bulls have signed him at. So looking to see how THT closes this thing off. I think he does get that final roster spot. So as we move forward, another player that I'm looking at tonight is going to be Jalen Smith, because look, Jalen Smith is going to be the guy at center for sure. That power forward, I think he's going to play a lot of those minutes. And now that we don't have Kenny Lofton Jr., who is now gone and been waived, at this point, it's him, right? Because Sanogo is on a two-way contract. And unless we go ahead and actually put him up there on the roster and allow him to get some minutes, like Jalen Smith is our guy that is going to really help us when Vooch is out the game. And if we need to get some size, it's going to be up to Jalen Smith. And so I'm glad to see that he's come back from the sore knee. I want to see a little bit more from him tonight. I think that he played well with Josh Giddey and Lonzo Ball, which was a huge sign for me. I know he went 0 of 3 from downtown. Not too worried about it. I'm glad that he is willing to stretch the floor, but he has got to continue to find his rhythm, find his way within these rotations that Billy Donovan is going to throw out here. So I think he is definitely going to be important for us. And so, lastly, that leads me to Billy Donovan and what is going on with him. This is a graphic again from CHGO, but I just think it is perfect for going into this game and really as we close out the preseason. And it is these dilemmas that Billy Donovan has. He has this dilemma with Julian Phillips, then also too with Modest and Patrick Williams and just trying to figure out what is going to be the best rotations here, because I think that now that Lonzo is here for, hopefully for the season, or if they do decide to trade him on whatever, he's still got to figure that out too. And so he has a major dilemma, and I think that this is going to be one of Billy Donovan's best coaching acts, to be honest with you, because he has got to figure out how to develop these players, also continue to keep these rotations where it makes sense. And so I think that this is another game for him to go ahead, try to figure out some rotations, try some things new. Hopefully we see some players take a step forward. But it is going to be all about Billy Donovan trying to figure out what is going on with this logjam of guards. And then also too, with these talented young players at the forward position, which are essentially battling for the same spots for the most part. Like, this situation with Patrick Williams and Modest, like I think that that's going to be interesting in this last game. And I think that for the most part, we're going to see just about everybody out there. How many minutes, who knows? But I think for the most part, we are going to get at least one more look at this roster. Hopefully we do get a chance to see a little bit more of Sanogo, who I just mentioned. I think that he absolutely needs to be out there, especially since we have let go of Kenny Lofton Jr., because I think that he is going to be absolutely needed on the front lines. And so with that being said, let me know in the comments what you are looking for in tonight's preseason game. And what do you think about Lonzo Ball and his recent play? Do you feel like, yes, if he continues to play well, do the Chicago Bulls go ahead and trade Lonzo Ball, get some draft capital back, maybe a player that can help him out right now? I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking in the comments. Want to thank everybody out there for liking, subscribing, and sharing. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest. And make sure that you continue to mash on that subscribe button for us as we try to reach 5,000 subscribers before the NBA season starts, which is just right around the corner. And so I just want to thank everybody once more and say, look, even though we have still a lot of questions going into this upcoming NBA season, I'm still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.